If you had a phone, if you could put it on silent. And if anybody would like to speak to the council tonight, have a question, you're welcome to sign in. And with that, do we have a, can I have someone get this thing?
You need to sign in?
Yeah. Probably not. I don't think there's anybody signed in, is there?
I didn't see it there when I came in. The girl over.
Did you hear the Senate pulled out the supplemental portion of that?
Mr. Walensky, if you're the first one to sign in, you're the first speaker.
No, I think there's two ahead of me.
Oh, there is.
Don't want to make anybody upset.
Don't want to cut in line, right?
No.
There's a John McDaniel. You're the first speaker.
Not plugged in, but that's fine. Okay, I'm going to be pretty brief, but I only have a little thing. I got one question to ask, and then I have a little comment to make. Several weeks ago, Mr. McCarthy mentioned that there had been a deposit made on the Basil property. My question is, did the county make that deposit, or was it a deposit made by a private concern? In other words, is the property still available to the county? Could you give an update?
I think I can tell you that the county has nothing to do with the proposed potential contract that put the Basil contract under agreement. That it's a third party that is not related to the county in any way at all.
That answers the question. And the other thing is a comment. Last week there was a lot of discussion about reimbursement of travel expenses. It's clear that if there is a policy for travel expenses, no one on the board knows what that policy is or what expenses are reimbursable. The conversation then turned into a detailed list of expenses of one councilman, which to me appeared to be legitimate meeting expenses on county business. An open work session was not the place for this discussion. It just showed how unprofessional this board can really be at times. There is an issue among your council colleagues that should be discussed behind closed doors, not in an open work session. Let's conduct these open work sessions in a professional manner. That pretty much ends my comment.
Well, I'm going to say something. I agree and I disagree. I agree that they should be done in a professional manner. I disagree that we should go into closed session. I disagree that we do this behind closed doors. I disagree that we violate the closed meeting minutes or meeting laws of Maryland. In Maryland, there are only certain reasons that we can go into closed session. Discussion of travel voucher reimbursement expenses is not one of them. If we're talking about personnel issues, we want to talk about a particular hiring or firing of someone, we can do that. That's covered under the meeting open meeting minute. I keep saying that. I'm sorry. It has nothing to do with minutes. It has to do with the policy that there's a state law that mandates when and when we can not go into closed session. And it's very specific. And when we go into closed session, we announce publicly the real reason that we're going in, and it is one of 10 reasons, I believe, that we can go into closed session. Now, again, all our meetings should be done in a professional way. We should never be attacking other council members or members of the public or anyone else. And we shouldn't make it personal at all. But there are reasons to go into closed sessions, and they're not reasons. And in a matter of transparency, we wanted to avoid going into closed meetings as much as possible.
Mr. McDaniel, thank you for...
But when you start bringing out itemized expense items in an open session, you are somewhat attacking that individual.
I totally disagree. I totally disagree. If we should be open to the public on all our expenses, regardless of their personal expenses, business expenses, legitimate expenses, or not expenses. When we spend your money, when we spend the taxpayers' dollars, they should know where that money is going.
Correct. And that list of expenditures normally, you used to be published in the Cecil League, if I wanted to see or know about it.
Well, they still are published. Anything over $500 is still published, how often? Monthly. All expenses over $500 is still published in the WIG. All the little expenses may not be published, but they should be available to the public if they ask.
Okay, can
made
I?
my comment.
Well, I'm happy you brought this up. In fact, when I first was told, yes, go ahead, I had inquired about other travel reimbursements I had seen, and Mr. Hodges said, yes, you can request reimbursement. So I did what he said, I made a list, and to be honest, I didn't know what was qualified, and I asked many times. And for me to have found my list with the press packet, I was shocked. And you know, I'm all about transparency, accountability. I'm not going to say anything about that. And the first week it was fine. We had a discussion about it. And I think that's where it should have been. We should have had decided what is valid reimbursable expenses, because not only are we talking about commissioner, I'm clear about commissioner, we're also talking about what is the new standard for council. And the way this whole thing was done, I know it was done on purpose, because I had asked our council manager who put this in the packet. Mr. Massey told me it was Mr. Hodge. And I don't doubt he did it on purpose, and I'm sure it was, in my opinion, it was probably payback for all the times that I told him it was wrong, the way he's voted on certain projects or certain incentives that he has done for his own personal gain. I think that's what it was, in my opinion. So, you know, we're still, had a conversation today with Mr. Winston Robinson and Lisa Saxton, and it is a gray area. I had a conversation with Mr. Massey. It's a very gray area. We need to figure out what policy, what standard we're going to adopt. I'm fine with that. And I could have been reimbursed, and I said, no, wait until we know for sure what is the standard that we all agree to. So thank you for bringing that up. The next speaker is Ron Hartman, unless Mr. McCarthy, would you like to have anything to say about that?
No, I have nothing to say. I mean, let me say something. I think that this ought to get ironed out behind closed doors, so you don't know the truth.
No, it shouldn't be ironed out behind. The detailed listing was it was asked for clarification. The policies, the rules and procedure, I'm sorry, the rules and procedure we have to adopt in open.
Well, you know, that might be the way, but I mean, I think that we need to establish what is a reimbursable expense.
We agree.
And I do not think that we need to do it in front of the people and waste their time. And we bring forward what we think is reasonable and vote on it, period.
In other words, you're agreeing with what I just got done saying.
Yes,
I
he
think,
is.
yeah, that's right.
And I'm actually agreeing with Mr. Hodge, isn't that crazy? So Mr. Hartman is our next.
And until you establish a policy, which I think is pretty
Yeah.
sad, that we're this far down the road in sort of our county government, and we don't know when it's an expendable expense.
Right. Oh, and the other part of this is, with the coming up charter, our pay has changed drastically. We now get paid $25,000 a year with no benefits.
But
So-
an expense policy should not have changed going from county council to charter.
Well, the only thing that I can say is that I've taken basically a whack and paid to do this job. You know, everybody knew exactly what the pay was when they took it. I mean, I suspect that if you want the job, take what they give you, or basically ask for more. But, you know, we cannot use this as a justification for anything other than what we get.
Well, that's true. And there's things that I could qualify for, but I didn't ask for reimbursement. But it was just after the traveling, I do a lot of traveling.
Well, we all do a lot of traveling.
Okay, so Mr. Hartman, you are the next speaker.
Hi, Ron Hartman. I have some spent my whole career working in water and wastewater, selling a lot of high-tech, high-rate technology to water and wastewater treatment systems throughout the United States. Apparently our new budget is proposing to spend $31 million on upgrading the Northeast River wastewater treatment plant. There are some reasons to question the necessity and wisdom of this present proposal. First is the projected flow rate for the Northeast plant for, say, years 2030, 2040. From what I understand, Department Office of Planning and Zoning, Tony DiGiacomo had made some projections based on the Maryland Department of Planning and WMAPCO's figures, and his own calculations projected 6,700 households to be connected to the Northeast plant by the year 2030. Presently, the Northeast plant is servicing 4,370 customers with a flow of 985,000 gallons per day, or 225 gallons per day per customer. And if you take those figures, it would project to approximately 1.5 million gallons per day for the year 2030. This works out to about a growth rate of 2.5%, and it would take to 2040 to get to 2 MGD based on these numbers. Per our consultant GHD's letter of November 7th, Cecil County can achieve 2 MGD at ENR standards, enhanced nutrient removal levels, for approximately $10 million. MDE is apparently willing to give a grant for $11 million, which would cover this cost. What I understand is we're being proposed to spend $30 million now so that we can have a 4 MGD plant possibility in the future. Seems to be out of line based on the present projections, which indicates that we won't reach 2 MGD till 2040. So that's one issue, is, hey, when are we going to get the 4 MGD? What's the projection for 4 MGD?
Mr. Hartman, can I stop you just for a minute?
Sure.
And ask you, apparently you and Diana Bromo have done a lot of research on this, and I haven't heard these numbers yet. I think that Maryland Department of Planning has done some projections, and they were incorporated into the comprehensive plan.
Oh, okay.
And now there's apparently a whole new set of numbers. But I guess I have 2 questions. How many EDUs would we use up if we tied into the town port deposit plan?
I can't answer that question.
Okay.
Good.
Let me ask you, do you know the answer to that?
Well, I do know that the town had asked for up to $1 million in capacity for their current, gallons for their current users and future users, including Bainbridge.
This is,
Currently, it would be
well, this is port deposit,
300,000
right?
is the current users would use up 300,000.
Okay,
But for the port
well,
deposit
now-
interceptor to be built, that is a whole other phase,
Yes.
which is many, many years into the future. And
Maybe not.
Yeah.
We don't know when. But
Yeah,
let me
I
ask you
don't know.
another question.
Yeah.
There is a large percentage of the western part of the county in the growth area that has nothing to do with residential. It's all industrial and agricultural,
Okay.
industrial, commercial.
All right.
Tremendous amount of zoning capacity.
Okay.
Some of it's currently tied up in mineral extraction, but the intention is that once those minerals are extracted, to turn that into commercial industrial. And I think that we all agree that we would like to see a lot of job creating types of investment in the growth corridor.
All right.
And so my question is, your numbers for these 100 households doesn't account for all the potential capacity that we may require for commercial and industrial construction in the growth area. And to me, you could have one large employer come in and say, hey, we need thousands of EDUs of sewer capacity.
That's a possibility. Somebody
Right.
could come in
So-
and say, I need 1 million gallons.
So if we underestimate our capacity today, we could screw ourselves for that capacity for our job creators in the future.
Mhm. So what are the chances of that also happening to the Meadowview site? Could have easily happened over there too. And I think the point, well.
Go ahead.
Okay, the point, I think that needs to be made is that the impetus for this discussion was the ENR upgrade to Seneca Point. And the funding that we're receiving from the state of Maryland from the Bush Tax Fund is $10.9 million. And that would fund the upgrade fully, using the denitrification filter. So, you know, for it to have transitioned to, well, let's look to the future. Okay, so if you want a MBR process, what other processes out there would be viable as well?
Well, maybe I should finish mine.
Okay.
So I'm not in total disagreement with what Robert has said. My next comments are, someone needs to verify that planning for a 4 MGD plant at this time is the correct approach. And even if the power is to be decide the 4 MGD plant capacity on the present site is the way to go, and that's obviously your folks' decision, then I question that it is really necessary to spend what would eventually be $40 million to achieve a 4 MGD plant of ENR standard, of ENR status. Right now, from what I understand, Cecil County Department of Public Works has locked itself into a biomembrane reactor system with filters to achieve the 4 MGD flow at an ultimate projected cost of $40 million. It is my understanding that no detailed cost analysis has been done on other potential systems to accomplish the same 4 MGD upgrade. I believe that a more complete analysis looking at multiple technologies needs to be done. There are the Viola's Calvinus moving bed biofilm reactor system. There's the Infilco Degramont Bio4 biological aeration filtration system. There's a Siemens Biomag system, which are technologies that provide for increased flow rates on an existing footprint that could be looked at as possibilities to compare with the biomembrane reactor system. To me, it would seem to be totally irresponsible not to do a cost comparison of the biomembrane reactor system with other systems before committing to spending $40 million of the Cecil County citizen dollars. These other technologies are easily accessible by computer. In the case of one of the companies, and I'm not promoting them, Infilco Degramont, I spent 20 years of my career working for them and can attest to their competence and knowledge as a corporation. But I guess the main point is that to lock into one system, do a compare and price it up, and not compare it with other competing technologies, which can take an existing small footprint and expand it to 4 MGD also, it would be irresponsible. So that's, I guess, my main thrust of my discussion, and, I can't think, I don't want to
Mr.
get
Hartman,
into specifics,
I
because
think-
it's not.
I think that you're right. I think that your concern is justifiable. I think that we, the county, should do a cost comparison. We should evaluate all options and all opportunities regarding the wastewater upgrade. I believe that the Public Works Department has done that,
Oh, okay.
but they haven't brought it out to the public, and they haven't put it on the charts and said, hey, this is Plan A, Plan B, Plan B, and they haven't done a good job of publicly announcing their evaluation process.
Okay.
I do believe, and I think that we will expect them to do a better job of showing these comparisons and why they chose this during the capital improvement budget process. When they come before us to justify their rational reason to move forward with whatever system they choose, they're gonna have to justify it before this board and the Citizens Budget Advisory Committee. We're looking forward to that effort, and it'll be on our schedule, and I don't have our schedule in front of us. I don't know what date that would be, and I would encourage you to come and listen to
Okay.
that justification. But it'll be in the capital improvement project. All the capital improvement projects will be vetted before the council. And we will be able to ask questions, and we expect them to justify why they chose that particular system to go in that particular direction. They have not done a great job of educating us on all the background for that evaluation up to this point in time. So we just, are blindly, currently trusting them. We hope that they've done their job.
And this was an example I had of, I did a lot of research, and Ron was one of the people I had contacted. But I also contacted Tony. He's the one that provided the new updated figures, and there were 2 other people. But this was a great example of an in-house auditor. Not only do they do audits, but they also research questions that we would have. And we're only as good as the data we get in making a decision. So,
I think it's the responsibility of the Public Works Department to provide us with that information, and we should be asking, and the hearing is April the 9th at 2 o'clock, by the way.
The what?
The hearing from Public Works, the budget hearing is at
Okay.
April
On
the
the
9th.
capital improvement budget,
Pardon?
capital improvement budget, not their operating budget, the capital improvement budget.
It doesn't say.
It'll be on both.
On both on the same day?
Yeah.
Okay. Now, Ron, I know that there's a concern because on our agenda today is a consent order that we're being asked to
committed to.
commit to, yes. In the consent order, in no way at all does it actually lock us in
Okay.
to MBR or any other alternative. It doesn't say it. It doesn't say it. It all it creates is a scheduled timeline. Because right now, we've missed the current timeline that our current permit tells us to do. Our current permit, our operating permit, says that we should have had this thing up and not done yet, but we're so behind schedule that we need to revamp that schedule. We've negotiated, when I say we, the county, the Public Works Department has negotiated a new timeline to meet a new time frame. Now, if in the event that we change our mind, change our direction, then we'll have to go back and probably redo that timeline.
Yeah.
But we can't just say to the state, we're gonna ignore you and not set a timeline or set any goals or a completion date. So based on what we know today, we should, in my opinion, and I'll probably be voting for the consent agreement, because it doesn't lock us in, it doesn't tie us down, but it does put us in good instead with the Department of Environment. So they know that we don't, ignoring them, we're working on a plan. If our plan changes, then we will have to modify our consent order.
Usually when you're working with the EPA, the state health department, state environmental or organizations, if you're visibly putting your good foot forward, you know, they're not unreasonable folks.
But if we don't enter into this consent order, we will become more and more in violation of our permit.
Yeah. And I guess it's just an area I personally have some knowledge in, so I can get a little steamed up. I can get a little steamed up over it. I just though meant to make some hopefully helpful comments
I think you brought up some very valid points.
that other people I mentioned, they're competent folks.
Okay,
Thank you.
Good night, thank you for your time.
thanks for coming in.
Not that, I got lots going on.
John Polinsky.
Okay, a couple of quick questions. I was trying to put my thoughts together on this bill 21301, purchase of developmental rights, and I found that I had insufficient data to make any kind of good conclusion on it. Let me ask you, with the majority of the cropland farms in Cecil County being less than 50 acres, why did we leave them out of the purchase of development right and transfer of development right procedures?
They are, at one time were included and then they were omitted, and I have a feeling it had to do with the balance, with the TDR program, of having too many. There was a delicate balance of, receiving and sending areas, but, I'm gonna let Eric Schurz answer that question.
Actually, anything under 50 acres can be included in.
Yes.
If it's adjacent to a property that's already under protection,
That's what I'm saying.
or if it is deemed by the council to be worthy of being accepted into the program based on soils, based on production capability classes, based on historic production. So it's, if you read it again, 50 acres is the threshold, but then there are qualifiers after that.
That do allow it in there, yes, I've read that.
Correct.
But if you look at the grand total that's presented by the, the Department of Agriculture, you've got 66.7% of the farmers who raise crops who are not eligible. Okay, and I'm one of them. I've got some prime turf crossing the state forest, and I don't qualify because nobody around me is, so.
If you're adjacent to the state forests down up.
I'm across the street from it, yeah.
Then that should, as long as they're in protection, which again, if it's owned by the state.
Well, that's state easement, not county easement.
Any.
It's anyone, okay, so I can count, all right. But the rest of these people that make up 66.7% are not eligible because
Well, no, again.
funding?
If the council deems, again, it's 50 acres is that automatic threshold. Anything below that, again, the council can make the decision to say, yes, it may not meet the acreage threshold, but it is worth it. It is viable still. Basically what happens is, when we've actually based everything upon what the state regulations have been set on, and as the programs have evolved and advanced and subdivisions have happened over the years, what happens is they don't want smaller parcels of land that may be 20, 30 acres that are totally surrounded by large subdivisions where a true grain crop operation or livestock operation may not work in that location any longer. That was the thinking back in the early 80s, early 90s as things evolved. We made it to the point where someone wants to come in and do a CSA, smaller community farming operation where possibly the land is more viable. Again, that may be an option where the council would say, okay, in that type of circumstance, preservation makes sense. So again, just because a property is less than 50 acres doesn't mean it's totally precluded from participating.
Okay, but you do understand there's still a large number of people that are gonna be left out of the loop.
I do, and again, also.
Okay, it's just a thing with me because, I keep looking at, equal justice under the law as part of our vision, and I see us carving out a part of our culture instead of allowing the whole culture to participate, okay? So, then that begs the question, on this Senate Bill 236, okay, have we got any resolution on how this thing's gonna come down? I mean, is the 1 in 20 true? Is the minor subdivisions out of the loop? Are we gonna lose that capability for farms now?
I can tell you that and I can't remember the bill number, I testified, not, repeal. The Clean Chesapeake Coalition testified, in support with amendments. So that, it didn't get anywhere, but the next step for us is to meet with the Bay candidate. And we're gonna get that conversation going. We need to bring out how Cecil County is different than the other counties. We have 2 conservation districts with 2 different densities. And, we have taken steps to address our sprawl issues. As soon as that, Chesapeake Bay Cabinet meeting is scheduled, it's gonna be in the afternoon, I'd encourage you to show up. And we'll advertise it, the public, I believe, will be able to speak. Is that correct?
Yes.
So that, in my opinion, that's, our next line of defense.
Now, is minor subdivision part of their thinking process? I mean.
No, you can still do minor subdivisions. It does not affect minor subdivisions. You can still do up to 5 subdivisions. So 5 lots with a minor subdivision. It does not prohibit that. But let me go back to your original question. As you would know, because you were here when we had a public hearing that was required by the law because the state Maryland Department of Planning basically did not like our plan. So we had a public hearing, the citizens spoke, and as far as I'm concerned, the ball is in the court of the county executive to make the decision of which way she wants to go, if she wants to go anywhere at all. She could just stand on the map that was submitted and let it ride, see what happens. Or she can mend it, or she can totally throw it out and submit a new map. So until such time as the county executive decides to do something, it is what it is.
Now, she did make a public statement that she was going to, get a stakeholder group together and try and incorporate more of the comprehensive plan. Do we know?
I have to tell you, I asked the county executive about that comment that was printed in the paper, and she said that is not accurate information. That was not what she said, and I don't know, I wish that she would have come out and said that that's not accurate, it's not true. I don't know where that statement came from, I don't know who said it, but she said that is not an accurate statement. She, at this point in time, she has no intentions of putting a stakeholder group together.
I do remember something about her, making, I thought there was comments made that she would, look at incorporating more of the comprehensive plan, into another proposal.
I think what she said is if there's a new map, it will be in compliance with the comprehensive plan. If there's a new map, it'll be in compliance with the comprehensive plan.
Okay, I understand that part. The part, that I can't figure out here, are we gonna go with 1 in 20 as the density? If so, for the small farmer like myself, that means if I develop it, I can build 1 house, which is the one I'm living in, okay? I thought before that I had the right to do a minor subdivision and divide by 5, but I called the group in the planning office because my letter said that if I didn't do a minor subdivision by 1 January 2013, I couldn't do anything. And I was told that based on what the state is saying here, that the likelihood of anybody being able to do a minor subdivision is not there. So now we've really taken my property, which when I bought it 38 years ago, 37 acres, 37 houses. Now, 1 house because there's no minor subdivision. So I'd like to get some resolution as soon as possible.
You're not gonna get resolution tonight. What you need to do is go into the planning and zoning office tomorrow or next week or at your convenience, explain your particular circumstances, and they will be able to go through and tell you exactly what your options are.
Well, that's what I did on the phone with Steve from the division.
I trust me, it's better to go into their office, because they can look it up on the maps, they can find your property on the zoning maps, they can look and see if there's been previously any subdivision on your property, they can see, but, over the phone, they may not identify the right property, they may, there may be another person that has a similar name. Trust me, it's so much better for you to visit them, They'll go into the zoning maps, they'll identify your property, and they can tell you what your choices and options are.
Okay.
And there's no charge.
Well, you know, I understand. I did that over the phone. He quoted my number for my property the whole bit, but we'll go through that exercise again. I think it's worthwhile, rather than totally destroy all the potential, you know, of development for all these small farmers, and you got 2/3 of them, okay, less than 50 acres, that we fight for this subdivision right. Give us something left. I mean, we're all dying after getting our lifetime savings killed by, you know, Bill Clinton. What's left but you know, our farmland. And now my farmland's gonna have a density of 1 for 37 acres. And, you know, and this body's had it. I'm ready to retire to Arizona, but I can't because I can't sell it. You get one house, 37 acres, the property value went down and the market for it shrunk. Okay, so I'm stuck here. So
I feel your pain, and I think the majority of the council members don't want to take away any property rights or any development rights from any citizen without their permission or voluntarily giving them up.
okay, as far as you know, we can still fight for the minor subdivision of 5.
As far as I know.
Correct.
Unless there's some peculiar issue that's unique to your property, that may impact your property. But generally speaking, SB 236 does not take away the ability of property owners to do minor subdivisions.
Okay, thank you.
Can't do that.
Mr. Hodge, just one qualifying statement there. As long as we have minor subdivision potential.
Right, that's what yes, I
As long
understand.
as 5 lots haven't come off the original part.
That's right, and that's why I said his property makes it unique, that it
Right.
has already been,
That's a good point.
that's what I'm saying, your property may have already been previously subdivided, and that's why it's unique in that way.
Mr. Belinsky? Mr. Belinsky?
Yes, ma'am.
Has your, property been subdivided already?
Not in the 38 years I've lived there, no.
Okay, so.
No, but I think I'm classified as part of that protective zone in the Elk Neck Peninsula, which, you know, like I said before, baffles me because I got 1, 2, 3 developments just south of me, right in the peninsula, even south of where I am.
Rather than thinking, I think if you came in, they'll show you right on the map, and I think they'll clarify exactly what your zoning is, what your density is, what's unique about your property, and what they think you can do with it. Is there anyone else on the list?
That was it?
Does anyone else have a comment or a question of the council?
I came in the middle of the conversation, but did I hear Commissioner Brumell, accuse Commissioner Hodge of intentionally sabotaging something? Did I hear that correctly? Putting something in a packet or something on purpose? Did I hear that correctly?
Are you his bodyguard? That's what after I asked Mr. Massey about the incident, I wish you knew more about the circumstances. I don't understand why you're interjecting yourself and protecting Mr. Hodge. Do you have all the information?
And am I the only one that's not allowed to interject in this conversation?
Well,
Because you're pretty good at it.
Why don't you get the information first and then vote on it?
Well,
Harold, I can say that there was a misunderstanding.
There was.
Well, in my opinion, there was a misunderstanding. And it was brought to my attention that we had gone over budget, the council had gone over budget in our travel expense item. And Mr. Massey was asking for permission to find out how that budget could be amended to account for this extraordinary request to be reimbursed. And I said that we need to bring it to the council for discussion, because I didn't want to grant that permission to Mr. Massey directly. I wanted the council to have some say over the amendment of the budget, their own budget, within their own budget. And I said that you need to provide the information that we need to make a decision. And I did not specifically, I don't remember. If I did, I'm sorry. I apologize to anybody. I don't remember specifically asking for Councilwoman Brumel's travel voucher request to be included in the packet. If I did, then I apologize to Councilwoman Brumel and to our county manager, Mr. Massey, because that's not what my intent was. My intent was to have the information available so that we, the council, could act intelligently and vote on a process, a procedure, and to get this matter straightened out for future issues that may arise. As a council, we are still new. There are new developments coming in every day that we didn't think about, and we're putting together our rules and procedure. And it's interesting that this matter came up because it's a good way of getting our rules and procedures clarified for future reference for future council members so that they'll have better guidance on what they should and shouldn't do.
I'm sorry, it just sounded like malicious,
Well,
intent accusation to me.
The only malicious comment that I heard her make this evening was the fact that she has implied that I've made several decisions that were acting in my own best benefit. And I have to say, in her opinion, in my opinion, I have done everything possible to try to do what's in the best interest of the citizens of Cecil County, regarding any benefit to me personally. And I've always said it out loud, I've said it publicly as a commissioner, I've said it as a council member, that if any citizen, if any council member feels that I have benefited in any way from any decision, that they should file an ethics complaint before the ethics board in Cecil County. And they should do it promptly, and they should do it accurately stating how I have personally benefited. So I sleep very well at nighttime because I don't think that there's any case, there's no merit to any accusations, and I have no clue why Ms. Brumel feels the way she does, other than I have to say that this goes back a long, long way before I was ever elected, because she could never believe that a successful person that owns property could ever want to participate in government. And that the only way that they would ever want to be involved in government, and this is my opinion of what you believe, is that they would want to become an elected official for the sole purpose of benefiting personally and individually. That they would have an impact over their financial wealth and benefit their development of their properties, which I totally and absolutely out of hand reject.
Well, I had a set of goals, you know, and I think we all said we had a set of goals when we were elected, where we're going to focus our efforts, and I think we should focus on, as Mr. McCarthy has also said, infrastructure on the growth corridor, and we've only got so much revenue. You know, when we're going after projects that are not in the priority funding area, happen to be right next to your house, it's not a good thing, in my opinion. So, there's a few things that I have saw a pattern with, and I appreciate, I was unsure about Seneca Point. I appreciate that you said, yes, we need to have a cost analysis done, and that there needs to be better communication with DPW. DPW seems to have a reputation for wanting to spend a lot of money. And once again, we only have limited resources. We need to spend them wisely, and we need to have the correct information to make those decisions.
So we agree this county's broke. And we should also agree that we need to watch how we spend discretionary spending.
Yes, we agree.
Wow, okay, it's gonna snow. Thank you.
Okay, well, it's over. See you again in 2 weeks.
Thank you all for coming.